Hey, what's up, guys? I just wanted to check in for a minute, man. As you see, I'm Christopher Denson from the Pete Game Show. And let me introduce myself. My family comes from a media background. I'm originally from Chicago. I grew up on the west side, best side. And I grew up in an era with some Chicago greats and legendary. I won't necessarily say they're great, but definitely legendary. Um, I grew up in the 80s, 90s. I was born in 71 on the west side. I was actually literally born on the west side on 290 in Central at Loretta Hospital. So a lot of them cats you'll hear them talking about 290. I am literally 290. I was born on 290. So this the real thing. When you talking about west side, I'm the real deal, you dig? My family still has businesses on the west side of 50 years plus. Shout out Sherway Livery. Shout out Windy City Word. So on and so forth. But I've been watching this culture for a minute, and I've been checking out people talking about being a boss, being a boss, being a boss. And and I understand it. I mean, because coming from where we come from, you look at the word boss on one level, it's like, okay, you want to be a boss, you want to be in control of what's going on, and I understand that. And ain't nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you got to really understand the difference between a boss and a leader. And I think today the problem is we got too many wannabe bosses and not enough leaders. You did. Um, a boss is interesting. A boss more like relies on his position, his authority that someone gave to him. Right. Ironically, it's usually a leader that puts a boss in position. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Any butthole could be a boss. Somebody give you a position, you tell people what to do, you focus on command and control, you know what I'm saying, giving orders and expect people just to comply, without question. That's a boss. But a leader is a lot different. A leader, leads by influence and inspires a team and inspires other people and motivates others to want them to act, not out of fear, but out of motivation and inspiration. You did. Leaders encourage collaboration, working together. Bosses, they a lot of bosses, they did it all themselves. They think they're the boss. You dig what I'm saying? Leaders are more involved in empowering and uplifting other people. I value being a leader much more than being a boss. I never wanted to be a boss. Any asshole could be a boss. Shout out to all the bosses out there. I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing, But for me, I'd much rather be considered a leader because leaders, they last. You did. For instance, Donald Trump, a boss, right? But look at his reputation, the way it's going to go down, from being a boss through history. You did. Versus, and this isn't even political. I'm just talking about style. Versus Barack Obama that led with dignity and like a boss. I'm not talking about policy. I'm not talking about any of those things. I'm just talking about the style in which they led. You did. Trump, boss, iron fist. You know what I'm saying? Everything's about me, I, my, I. Um, you know, bosses tend to foster a culture of fear, and obedience, obey me, where employees hesitate to speak up. You know what I'm saying? I've been working in the car industry for a long time, and you see a lot of that, especially them cats that's on like they 90-day period when you work in these dealerships. Shout out to McKenna Motors. That's where I work now. And I'm cool, but because I'm a leader. I got a lot of managers. When I have customers refer to, take it to your boss. I say, I don't have a boss. I have some management. I have a team that I work with, but I don't have a boss. Especially considering the fact that I used to own 2 car dealerships. So it's very hard for me to consider someone my boss that probably doesn't know half of what I actually know about the automotive industry. I said all that to say, bosses is easy, because the owner make a boss. If you say you the boss, you the boss. Okay, you the boss. You the boss, you tell them what to do and you boss them people. You know, a leader builds strong relationships with team members. Like me at the job, I'm building strong relationships with my team members. I'm a true leader. You know, not because I have an authority or a title over them, just because I've taken the game that I've learned over the years and I give it to them as a leader, because that makes the whole team stronger. If this person meeting his numbers and this person meeting his numbers and everybody on the sales floor and the team is working effectively at a high level, that's just going to ultimately bring more customers to the game and more opportunities to the table for all us to eat off of. You know, a boss just wants you to do what he say and, you know, prioritizes, you know, performance metrics over, you know what I'm saying, personal development. You find a lot of that. You get the bosses always talking about, you know, performance metrics. You know, you didn't meet this number, you didn't meet that number. Well, I say, well, you know what? I focused last month on customer service. I focused last month on reaching out to old customers, and I knew it wouldn't necessarily generate money immediately, but I knew that it would generate a certain culture of customer service that lasts beyond just this month. In the car industry, managers are really interested in making the numbers for the month. It's very important. So they're really stressed. When they're having a good month, they happy. They're having a bad month, they stressed, right? And it's funny because since I used to own a couple of car dealerships, I've noticed that when I end up working in dealerships that's doing stuff, you have managers that think that I want their job. I do not. I have no desire to be a manager or a boss at in a car dealership. Will I own another one someday? Possibly. I'm actually thinking about opening up another one in Chicago. But, you know, I'm living in LA now. So since I'm such a car guy, you know, I've kind of gravitated toward that industry. Someone thinks my life is interesting enough to do a television show about. So we're working on scripts and working in that aspect. But in the meantime, I had started the project, and then this recent SAG-AFTRA strike hit. So during that time, a gentleman called me and said, "Hey man, you want to come sell some cars? I see your resume on Indeed. I see your LinkedIn. I see, you know." At that time I was landing the bid. So I'm like, Uber was burnt out. You know, I was tired of Ubering. So I'm like, yeah, you know, I'll come check it out. And I went and I checked out this facility, and I liked them because they didn't play games with customers and do all type of crazy stuff that I see happening in the auto industry, even to this day. And once again, shout out McKenna Motors, because they're not perfect, and I don't think there is a way to be perfect in a capitalist society in corporate America. But from what I've seen, being a car guy for 20, 25 years, I can honor the way they getting down, even in all the madness, because it's just a unique situation. It's a good hybrid between a big corporate situation like a CarMax versus a mom and pop operation, boutique operation like what I had. But it's cool because it tends to cultivate less stress for the sales team. Managers are still stressed, but the sales guys, I focus on service because I know that's what's going to get me over. There are tons of car dealerships out there. We all have the same profit margin. This BMW dealership over the next BMW dealership, we got the same profit margins. So what's going to make them work with me is because of my customer service and my leadership. That is what makes me so employable. It's not because I want the title when I come to work for someone. It's because they know I'm a leader and I'm going to lead with integrity and in a certain way. And I'm not really broke, you know, most days, you know, whatever. So I'm not necessarily motivated by just the money. You know, if it ain't right, it can only be one more thing. It can only be wrong. So with that, I tend to use that as a thematic premise with my life. And I would urge, you know, young folks, man, you know, y'all talking about boss, you know, bosses make decisions unilaterally, you know, just all the way across the board. Don't even consult the team. They just do what they do. You know what I'm saying? Prioritize their own ideas and what they want. You know what I'm saying? Just being real inflexible. You know, when at the end of the day, a leader is going to involve his team members in the decision-making process, value their insights, you know, emphasize building and collaborating. Leaders are open to new ideas. They're not threatened when someone has a good idea. I know I'm an effective leader because over the years I've been, it's what's the saying? In order to be a great chief, you have to be a good Indian. And I'm very good at being a good team leader. I always have been. I've been involved with some great brands throughout Chicagoland, working on projects that have been highly successful, from bezeled out clothing to Slick's Lounge. Shout out Slick Fat Ass Howie in Chicago. Shout out my man Greg Hildebrand. But those things work because those gentlemen, in all their shortcomings, did understand what it took to be leaders and not just bosses. Because once again, anybody can be a boss. Anybody can be made a boss. As a leader, I've hired many bosses. You dig what I'm saying? But a leader doesn't need to be hired. A leader is going to lead regardless. And I don't know any other way to really explain it to you, man. You know, a boss objective, and that's why it's so interesting in the car business, because a boss mentality is working on short term, you know, right now objectives, immediate results. Because they're enforcing the rules and it's the way it is. We're gonna meet these targets, and that's it. And you know, they're really driven by their own personal ambition. They're not sewing into you to help you be better to actually meet these targets. They just talking mess to you, you know, for you to do it. They're not actually giving you many times the tools to do it, you know, and versus a leader is going to have more of a long-term objective and focusing on strategic goals and motivating that team, man. They say teamwork make the dream work, and it sounds cliche, but it is. But in order to be a team leader, you don't want to fall into the trap of being a team boss. You dig? Once again, I'm CD, Christopher Denson from the Peep Game Show. Thanks. I just wanted to chime in for a minute. I'm going to really start going live a little bit more and putting some more videos out just to talk to the people, because I know I got a lot of game. I've owned car dealerships, pawn shops, recording studios, worked with 15, 20 Grammy Award winners, and just hustled in the streets of Chicago, you know, been a real hustler. Did a lot of things that have taught me a lot on how to do things and how not to do things. You did. And like I said, I just want to start talking to people a little bit more on my YouTube channel. The biggest thing that I utilize my YouTube channel for, and this is my litmus test, even though I fall short sometimes because social media is, we'll get into that on another day, but social media can be really ego driven. Me, my, I, selfies, you know, we take selfies and post them in the bathroom. But I want to use my social media in a way where I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when they get older and they go back and peruse my social media and look at the things that I was on, I want them to be proud of their dad. And I want them to be able to tap back into some of these things that I'm saying and soak up this game that I'm giving, you know, because like I said, my sons are a little younger and tomorrow is not promised. So I want them to be able to always have a record of their dad and get a sense of what I was about, what I am about, and who they are, because they are me, blood of my blood, flesh of my flesh on a certain level. So you won't really get a lot of the foolish goofiness on this channel, because like I said, my test is, would I be proud of my son seeing this when they grow up and they're 18 and 19? Am I representing myself in a way that I would want them to see, in a way that I would want them to represent myself? So like I said, no one's perfect, and I'm sure I'm gonna fall short because I am a fool's fool. I have my moments, believe me. But at the end of the day, that really is what I'm about. And once again, man, so, you know, when you start hearing these records, you know, I'm a boss and all this stuff, you know, it's cool to rap to and bounce your head to in the club and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, being a boss ain't it. You want to be a leader. I listen to Dame Dash talking about being a boss, being a boss, being a boss. And I'll give Dame a pass, because really, in essence, even though he was using the word boss, I get what he was saying, you know, calling someone else boss. And honestly, he put something on my mind, because it made me really think about that, calling somebody a boss, you know. But in corporate America, it's just a structure. Oh, that's my boss. That's my boss. But then it really made me think, like, what's the difference between a boss and a leader? So I really think what Dame Dash was actually really expressing was the importance of being a leader, because I think in a way he may have been a boss, but I think over maturity, he's truly transitioned into a leader. Even when he was with the Rockefeller doing those things, he was moving in a way that was team building, loyalty, you know, and young black men playing with millions from the streets. You know, we all gonna make mistakes, and I'm sure he made his. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Was Dame Dash the leader, and is Jay-Z the boss? I don't know. Y'all leave the comments and y'all tell me what you think. I love Jay. I'm bumping him right now, but I'm just wondering, you know, what's really going on. All right. Peace, love, and everything. Check out the Peep Game Show on XM Satellite 142. Check out my newspaper, the WindyCityWord.com, and you can check out the links to all my podcasts, the Peep Game Show podcast. And I'll talk to you soon, all right? Peace and love.